This week on Jersey Matters, Governor Murphy is willing to voluntarily give up his health emergency powers. But there's a catch. We'll talk with Senate President Steve Sweeney about the governor's demands. New Jersey Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill tells us she won't vote for President Biden's infrastructure bill unless it includes two things. And it's officially the beginning of summer at the Jersey Shore. But things are going to look a little different this year. Hello and welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Governor Murphy is willing to allow the state health emergency to expire on June 30th. And that would take his power to sign so many executive orders and not have to go through the legislature. But there's a catch. The governor wants to put some of his existing orders into a bill that he could sign into law before June 30th. Here's Senate President Steve Sweeney to talk about it. Senate President Sweeney, thank you so much, as always, for your time. I have received so many emails, a lot of confusion, a lot of consternation about what's going to happen on June 30th with the emergency powers. People believe there is this deal between you and Governor Murphy and Assemblyman Coughlin, Speaker Coughlin, about the emergency powers, that they will be given up. The emergency powers by the governor will be given up, but all of the mandates and directives will go on, or at least a good deal of them. Can you tell us what is going on?
We agreed to leave some in place, Larry, because I don't want to be responsible for the vaccinations. I don't think, as legislators, we should be responsible for as far as running the vaccination sites. The administration has done a good job of creating the infrastructure. There's conversations about extensions on evictions but we're doing legislation to try to fix that eviction issue right now. We got a bill that Senator Stack has put $750 million into. It would go towards landlords to reduce the back, the back rent that people owe. Moratorium on utility shutoffs. They're the discussions we're having right now. But we want to open up, Larry. It's time. And I know there was a lot of confusion created when the CDC came out and said, you don't need the masks anymore. And the administration said, well, we're going to do the masks anyway. I understand being concerned. I truly do, and not wanting to get burned on something like that's what the governor said. But if you say you're following the science and the numbers, then you have to follow the science and the numbers. And I think that's what confused a lot of people. Larry, that the CDC says the masks go away. New York drops it, Pennsylvania drops it, now New Jersey and Hawaii are the only two states that have it. If we trust the vaccinations that we keep saying are safe for us, I've been vaccinated, thrilled to be. It's time. It's time to move forward. It really is.
You want the mask mandate gone? The mask mandate is going to be gone. Will it be gone for schools?
Something that's the debate right now, and we're talking about leaving that with the CDC also. Again, if we're going to follow a set of rules, the CDC is consistent throughout the country as far as mandating rules. I would think come the time for schools to go back, if everyone's getting vaccinated the way we are, a lot of kids are getting vaccinated now, 12 to 17 years old. I would think that, again, the CDC is going to make a move to say we don't need masks at all. And I'm looking forward to that.
But as of right now, when you meet and come up with this deal for June 30th, the Executive Order 175 that requires masks in schools, will that stay?
Don't know yet, Larry. Really, that's a moving target right now. I want to see masks go away. I understand they said the kids, young kids can't be vaccinated, but young kids aren't really getting sick.
Right.
So there's an argument to be made. Again, teachers should be getting vaccinated. School staff should be vaccinated. We have the ability, as it's a choice people are making whether to get vaccinated or not. But I think at some point you have to say, hey, listen, we want to get rid of these masks. I think, look, they're there to protect us, but then there's also the harm that's created for children. We're used to being with each other. Kids are used to, hanging out with each other, rubbing their nose on each other's shirts and stuff like that. So this isn't natural.
Let's talk about Patrick Callahan. There was his confirmation hearing has been held up a long time by you to be the state police superintendent. It's since October 17th, since October 2017. Will that go forward now? There was news a few days ago that there was a tentative deal. Then there was news that there wasn't a tentative deal.
There was never a deal. I said in that one article that at some point there's a possibility that it can go through, but there was never a deal. There's not a deal now. There wasn't a deal when they reported it. And it was just a matter of me not getting to a reporter quickly enough, and they ran with the story that someone gave them. So the situation is where it's been. There is no deal.
So the holdup before, and correct me if I'm wrong, was because there were allegations he intervened in a sexual assault in Sussex County. He's been cleared of that, has he not?
Well, there's been a report. If you read the report, they said it was highly irregular for a law enforcement official to notify someone that they're under investigation. In fact, they were chastised. In fact, if you read the report, it was pretty blistering from law enforcement professionals from around the country saying how highly unethical that was to do. That like someone's coming to me saying, hey, just so you know, look out, we're watching you. So listen, there's some other issues that I'm not going to go into at this time with troopers. There are concerns with some troopers with the colonel, the acting colonel. So for now, it's not, no, it's just not right now. And I don't know why. I was surprised when they ran the story.
Okay, and that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up again, because it was a story a few days ago, and that's why I'm bringing it up now. But all the things you're talking about, wouldn't they come up at a confirmation hearing?
Yes, they would. And listen, that and maybe some other things right now, Larry. But right now, I'm not in a position where I'm ready to go forward with that.
We continue our conversation with New Jersey Senate President Steve Sweeney right after this. And now we continue our conversation with Senate President Steve Sweeney. Let's talk about the Jersey Shore. People are excited about the Jersey Shore this summer because all the rentals are basically sold out. I was just talking to you a moment ago, and you told me there's a waiting list at some of the hotels down the Jersey Shore right now. They can't get anybody to work. What do you believe the reason is that nobody's going back to work?
It's two things, Larry. Everyone wants to point to the extra money for unemployment, but I believe the bigger problem is people coming off of unemployment and then trying to get back on it if something doesn't work out. Like, I'm an iron worker by trade, you know that. My guys collect unemployment in between jobs. So if you take a job now and say it lasts a month and then you're done, and then it's going to take you 5 months to get back on unemployment, you're not going to risk it, Larry. My phones in this office still ring off the hook because they can't get their unemployment claims. My neighbor knocked on my door. It was sometime in December, beginning of December, and knocked on my door. Can you help me get my unemployment? I haven't gotten unemployment, and it was in May. You know what I'm saying, Larry? So I really believe it's twofold. One, I'm making more money not to work. And two, if I take that job and say something happens that doesn't work out, then how do I get back on unemployment? But there's supposed to be a means test that you're actively seeking employment when you're on unemployment. You know that.
No. And other states now are passing legislation to enforce that, because really it has not been enforced across the country. And what they're saying is you have to show proof that you were seeking employment the week before you collect.
Well, I think that...
Would New Jersey do something like that?
We don't have to pass the law. It's already the law. They have to enforce it. Larry, they really have to go back to enforcing it. And look, there was a tsunami that hit us like we've never seen. And look, besides all the workers that, paid into unemployment, then we had all the independent contractors that never paid into unemployment that were getting unemployment. So you had another whole load, or hundreds of thousands of people that would have never qualified, that were thrown into the mix. I'm not making excuses for the slowness and the sluggishness of the process, because if you heard the people, it's not acceptable. But I really think the other part, the other piece of this is people afraid to be able to get back on unemployment once that employment expires.
I'll
So,
tell you the interesting thing that is happening, and I'm going to take it that you're saying that there really is no state solution for this. It's just going to have to work itself out. And part of it is because there's people that are raising salaries right now up and down the Jersey Shore to try to entice people to come back. And so the minimum wage was set at $15. It's going there itself.
well, Larry, I think the solution is that they enforce the employment test, that people actively seek and search for employment. We see too many signs, help wanted. We just see too many help wanted signs everywhere to have this many people unemployed. And as you said, wages are going up because employers are desperate to get employees. And look, I sponsored the minimum wage. I did the bill. So I believe in that. But my point is, we need people to get back to work. We absolutely need them to get back to work. And they should have to demonstrate, people should have to demonstrate that they're seeking employment, because right now you got a lot of people that are sitting home that are not.
Who makes the state enforce a law that's been around for a long time and has not been enforced?
The Department of Labor does, the Commissioner of Labor.
So the governor over the Department of Labor that would tell them.
Well, it's the department. Again, everything stops. The buck stops with the governor. Obviously, the governor is the governor. He's in charge. And I don't know what conversations that he's had with his commissioner, but I think the employment means test is important, seeking employment, because there's just too many people saying help wanted and these jobs going empty. And down the shore, it's even worse, because we always had an influx of young people from Europe that it only magnified the crisis that we have down there right now.
Right, all the consulates and embassies are closed, so they can't get the visas to come over. I know that's a huge problem as well. I wanted to ask you one last political question, and it has to do with New Jersey. As you know, seems to be a bellwether state because you have an off-year election, and you can kind of see trends ahead of the midterm elections. Something's fascinating is happening on the Republican side, where Jack Ciattarelli seemed like he was going to just stroll to this nomination. And that's not the case. It's tightened up. He has to spend money to fight back Hirsch Singh, who's nobody really saw coming. And it seems like the determining factor in this is support for Donald Trump. First of all, do you agree with that analogy?
1,000%. Larry, you're seeing it nationally. You see the Republican Party right now, it's the party of Donald Trump. It hasn't stopped. It's gotten stronger. And, Hirsch Singh is Trump on steroids. And Ciattarelli, he was never really that strong and supportive of Trump's policies. I heard some of the debate. I'm a political junkie. I listened to some of it. It's surprising. And I've actually heard in some polls, Singh's up a little bit. It's going to be interesting that Jack is having to spend money in a primary. And look, Jack's a friend of mine. I've worked with him in the legislature, but it's really interesting that he's spending money in the primary that he could probably use in the general in order to win. But you got to win the primary to be in the general.
Yeah, he has every county endorsement. He has the top line in every county. And I heard that Hirsch Singh's internal poll puts him up 3 points. And I guess what I'm looking at is next year, anybody that thinks Donald Trump has gone away in the Republican Party, he still has major influence, even when he doesn't show up and endorse anybody. It's just, do you support him or don't you support him? That's become a new litmus test.
Without question, it's if you're with Trump, for the Republican Party, for the majority right now, they're with you. If you're not, they don't have anything to do with you. How about Mitt Romney being booed?
Oh, I know.
Of all people, Mitt Romney being booed, and you see what happened to Liz Cheney. If you ever wanted to see a true conservative, it's Liz Cheney, and they knocked her out. So they're flexing their muscles, and Donald Trump is the 800-pound gorilla of the Republican Party, and he isn't going away. He's definitely not going away. Now, for Democrats, that's good for us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
New Jersey Senate President Steve Sweeney, next on Jersey Matters. As the COVID-19 pandemic slowly improves, nursing homes are allowing more freedom for residents and their families. More on that story next.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. The state has issued new guidance for nursing homes, opening things up for vaccinated visitors and vaccinated patients. And our Jennifer Marin reports that has made for some very happy family reunions. Jennifer.
Like many people with parents in nursing homes, Leslie Biddle for months could only see her father through a phone screen. But now, months later, they're both fully vaccinated and making up for lost time.
I'm a family person. That picture there is my mom and dad.
For months, during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, 81-year-old John Biddle relied on pictures.
See that one there? That's my grandmother and grandfather.
And technology to keep him connected to his family.
Thank the Lord for text messaging, because that's the way I was able to keep in touch. And being stuck in your room is, you know, you have a TV and all that kind of stuff, but it's not the same as being able to walk down the hall and talk to somebody or that type of thing.
Luckily for John and other residents living at Care 1 at the Cupola, the days of isolation are fading away. For a few months now, John has been able to see his daughter in designated visiting areas.
Hey, sweetheart, how are you?
Hi, Daddy.
But it was just in recent weeks that they were finally able to enjoy visits inside his apartment.
The new guidance did just come out that if the resident is vaccinated as well as their visitor, loved one, caregiver, that they can be in the apartment, they can have touch, they don't have to social distance, and they can remove their masks.
But now, the reality of time lost to the pandemic is setting in.
The gentleman on the right-hand side standing is my Uncle Bill, and he just passed away. I'm the only one left, you know. But
his uncle's passing is just one of the difficulties John's endured in recent years. A few months before COVID-19 struck, he had major surgeries and lost his wife of 57 years.
Her birthday is June 17th. Mine's January 17th.
For medical reasons, he had to leave behind the home he built with his wife and eventually moved into the Cupola. So many changes, and then COVID-19 struck. His daughter says it was overwhelming.
And when you're sitting at home, not being able to be near him and to let him know, like, things will be okay, was difficult. It was a lot of guilt, a lot of therapy.
But now, sitting together hand in hand, Leslie, her father, and the entire family are looking forward to the future.
Will definitely be more visits, more going out to lunch.
Which is music to John's ears.
I just can't wait till we can be together a lot more.
Right, with everyone else, the rest of the family.
And you take me out and buy me lunch.
Of course.
A new chapter in the COVID-19 saga and an opportunity to make up for lost time. Now, officials here at Care 1 tell me that almost 80% of the staff are fully vaccinated and almost 100% of the residents are also fully protected. For now, reporting in Paramus for Jersey Matters, I'm Jennifer Marin.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Coming up next on Jersey Matters.
This time last year, funeral homes here in the Garden State had to deal with the unthinkable. I'm Phil Andrews, and coming up on Jersey Matters, we'll discuss the road back 1 year later.
Welcome back. New Jersey does suffer from the highest COVID-19 death rate in the country. And our Phil Andrews tells us that's putting a lot of stress on New Jersey's funeral directors. Phil.
Well, a year ago, the COVID-19 death rates here in the Garden State were among some of the highest in the country. And as a result, that put an unprecedented amount of stress on the state's funeral homes. When a person dies, their friends and family often take part in the celebration of their lost one's life. But at the start of the pandemic, there were so many unanswered questions on how to deal with those who had actually passed from complications of COVID.
One lady called me and said, "Is it true I have to cremate my mother?" I said, "Ma'am, no, it's not true. You still have the right to cremate your mother, bury her, have a place to a mausoleum, or even ship her to another state. You still have that right."
Kenneth Cattenhead has been a funeral director for almost 3 decades, and during the height of the pandemic, his funeral home here in Newark was inundated with people almost begging for him to take care of their loved ones.
I had a family call me 4 o'clock in the morning and said, "Would you please take us?" I've never had a request like that before. And you can hear it in their voice. When I spoke to the officer, they said for 2 hours, the officer and the family are calling different funeral homes between 2 counties to get some help. And they called me and they said, woke me up from my sleep, which goes with the nature of the business. "Would you please take us?"
We realized that families had needs, and we just needed to provide the best we could for the people. We adjusted scheduling, or prepared to adjust scheduling, so our people here had less exposure. We would do different things to, again, accommodate the needs of the family while keeping everyone as safe as we possibly could.
Rick Caruso has over 50 years' experience in the funeral business. His daughter Ashley is currently the director of the family's Pennsauken home. For Ashley, the hardest thing to do a year ago was tell family members they could only have a small number of people at events.
It was very hard, though, having to tell families, look, I know that all these people love your loved one, but they can't come. I even got emotional with a family before because they were not necessarily taking their anger out on us, but they didn't like what we had to say, but we have to respect the guidelines of the CDC.
Today, of course, families are allowed up to 125 people at a burial, a far cry from the 10 that were allowed in the early days of the pandemic. And while the number of COVID-related deaths have decreased, they are still an issue.
Yes, matter of fact, I think we're dealing with a family right now. Right as we speak, I think they're coming in to arrange funerals, and this person died of COVID related. So yeah, it's still there.
Now, things are not exactly 100% back to where they were pre-pandemic, but at least for now, well, funeral home directors across the state of New Jersey have a chance to at least exhale. For Jersey Matters, I'm Phil Andrews.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. On this Memorial Day weekend, we thought it appropriate to spend some time with former Navy helicopter pilot and current Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, who tells us infrastructure is at the top of her priority list. But she says she won't vote for any infrastructure bill unless it includes 2 things. Congresswoman Sherrill, thank you so much for your time, as always. One of the things that's being negotiated right now between Republican and Democratic representatives in Washington and the White House is the infrastructure bill of utmost importance to New Jersey. There's so much in there that New Jerseyans want and need. Is there a red line, for a lack of a better term? Is there something in there you have to have or you can't vote for it?
There are a couple somethings in there that I have to have. First of all, the Gateway Tunnel project. That is something that is so critical to the economy of North Jersey, something I've been fighting for years now. And I'm very pleased with what I hear coming out of the White House on the Gateway Tunnel project. I've spoken to Secretary Buttigieg twice now on just this. And I know that the president's budget included several lines of funding that would go towards getting shovels in the ground on that project. So I'm very pleased about that. But something else I have to see in this infrastructure bill, and I brought this up several times to Secretary Buttigieg as well as the White House, is getting rid of or addressing the state and local tax deduction cap. We need that relief here. It was an unfair double taxation put on citizens throughout my district, and it simply has to be remedied. So as I tell people, you don't have to be a millionaire here in North Jersey to suffer from the impacts of the state and local tax deduction cap. It's really a harm to our middle class families.
Let's move on now. There's talk about another round of stimulus checks, a fourth round of stimulus checks. Is that a possibility?
I think what we're looking for is making sure we do everything we can to get the economy back up and running. At this point, I think a lot of that is looking to invest in and making sure we have enough money to support our small businesses, making sure people can get back to work. I'm critically, as a mom of four, focused on some of our education programs, getting kids back into childcare, getting kids back into the classroom. I'm also looking at moving some of the unemployment, if we can craft that and an amendment to that, so we can move some of that into low-wage jobs to get people back in the workforce and not and to really incentivize getting back to work. So these are the critical things that I think I'm looking at. We can continue to talk about whether or not we need another round of stimulus checks. But right now, the main things I'm focused on are basically that list of things.
It's really interesting that you focused on getting people back into the workforce, because the White House has made it pretty plain that they don't believe that the extension of the unemployment benefits has anything to do with people not going back to work. And yet when you talk to small businesses in New Jersey, that's the first thing they talk about. When you talk about restaurants at the Jersey Shore, they say there's a crisis. They cannot get people to go back. So you believe that it is the unemployment benefits that are keeping people from going back?
I want to address everything I can to help our small businesses. And so, but what I think too many people are not taking into account, and when I look at the unemployment numbers, I see this, is the plight of working moms. And so while we can talk about some of the unemployment, how we move that into work, so we incentivize work, and I'm happy to do that. What I think we also need to address, and too many people seem to be not discussing this for my liking, is how we are going to get affordable childcare for people, how we're going to get kids back to in-person school, where are all the summer programs. So in my town, when I had really young kids, younger kids like kindergarten through second and preschool, I used daycare. But then when they were in school, I used some of our summer programs, our summer camp programs run by the school to help with childcare. And some of those aren't running this summer. So where are people going to find the childcare? And if you're a working mom, I have to tell you, these are really hard times. And we saw with the unemployment numbers how badly affected women were. And I think the numbers would have been far worse if we had taken into account all the women who weren't even looking for employment at this point.
I want to talk about one last thing, because I know you served, and I know you flew aircraft over the Middle East. The withdrawal from Afghanistan after all of these years. There are some people that say we should leave something behind just to protect our assets. And there is also reports coming out of Afghanistan that we have to destroy some equipment there because this is happening all too fast. Are you comfortable with the timeline? And are you comfortable with not leaving any American troops behind?
So, I think I agree. Well, I agree with President Biden's statement that this was not the timeline I would have created if we were starting from zero. But the former administration made commitments about American troops leaving. And, I think an American handshake should mean something. And I think that because our president had made that commitment, we had certain timelines that we had to act upon. And so President Biden, knowing that, created this timeline. It's not ideal. It's a very, believe it or not, very difficult and complex mission to remove troops and keep them safe, safely remove our troops from Afghanistan. Nobody wants the type of scenes that we saw from, say, Vietnam. So we're doing this in an orderly, thoughtful fashion. We can't leave weaponry in country that is going to fall into the wrong hands. So we're trying to remove as much as possible in a very safe, orderly way. It's not the ideal timeline, but it is the timeline that I think we had to work with given some previous commitments in the previous administration.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for your service when you served as a naval pilot, and now thank you for your service now. And thanks for spending the time with us. New Jersey Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. Coming up next on Jersey Matters, a New Jersey school superintendent writes a letter to the governor imploring him to end the mask mandate in schools. That's next. A student-led protest against Rutgers University's vaccination mandate was well attended by supporters from all over New Jersey. Rutgers University was the first college in the country to require that students be vaccinated before they return to campus. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. An Ocean County superintendent of schools wants the state mask mandate for schools lifted before graduation, and he wrote a letter to Governor Murphy to tell him that. Trianapolis Parlapanides is the superintendent of schools for the Central Regional District in Ocean County. Superintendent, thanks for making some time for us today. We're interviewing you about the letter that you sent to the governor. Why did you send it?
I'd reviewed it with my Board of Education, and we all felt it was time. It was time for the mask to go away. It's very difficult to breathe. I think the timing of it is right. And, I don't think we'll be able to get it changed by the end of this year, but I would definitely want to start the new year in September as normal as possible. I think these kids have had 2 years of, a horrible school year, with everything that's been going on. So I really want the kids to come back in September and have some normalcy in their life.
So the letter was for next year, because you said in the letter you would like the kids to be able to graduate without masks.
I've dealt with politicians, though, and I know they move at a snail's pace. So I would love to have it for graduation. But one thing I do know, it is an election year. So I think the more pressure Murphy gets, I think eventually he'll change it, but it won't be until maybe the summer or September, unfortunately.
So you wrote the letter asking for this year, knowing you wouldn't get this year?
Well, you got to keep sending the letters, and hopefully I'm hoping for a response. I haven't gotten a response from both Republican or Democrat. I've written letters for all sorts of things, and, so just keep hounding them with letters. I would try to do the Andy Dufresne from Shawshank Redemption, send 2-3 letters a week until eventually they'll write back to you or, get you an answer.
Are much of the letters so you can say to parents, here, look, I'm doing something, I'm on your side, I want this to change, but it's not me, it's them?
It's them. Like, I have no power. And that's when the group that came to us was a very nice group of parents, is unmask their kids, unmask the children, and a very nice group. And I say, guys, coming to the school board doesn't have the authority to do that. You need to go to Trenton, to the governor or the State Board of Ed. And if they get enough pressure, because I've testified at the State Board of Ed on, we had dissolution, we had a couple other issues, school choice, and it really worked out well. The State Board of Ed was fantastic. They listened to us and they made the changes that were, beneficial for kids. So I just want to make sure they had the right avenue in which to pursue this, so we pursue it properly and we get the change we want.
It has been fascinating to me that it seems like, well, I guess that shouldn't be fascinating because everything is political these days, but that masks have become political. And so that begs the question, do all parents feel this way, or is there a group that want masks?
I think there's obviously there's some groups that want masks just because everybody has their own situation, whether they're with the elderly or they don't believe in vaccines or so forth. So I think it's a combination. I've been looking what's going on in Texas and Florida where they don't have masks. I even was looking at Australia because they were kind of ahead of us when it was our winter was their summer, and then they started school ahead of us to see how their school year went during COVID. So I did read a lot of Australian newspapers and educational journals to see how they handled everything. So obviously, I think you can definitely go without the masks. There might be 1 or 2 people that want to wear the mask. I think you should have the choice. I don't think it should be a mandate. I think that's what makes America great. You have choices. And I think New Jerseyans are smart enough to, I don't think we ever should have shut down. A lot of people lost business, livelihoods. I think we're smart enough to keep distance and do the right thing and stay safe, like Texas and Florida and all the other states that remained open.
What do the parents tell you that their kids are saying to them, or what do you hear the kids say yourself?
Especially with the younger kids, it's very difficult to breathe. It's uncomfortable. There's been studies about CO2 for the elementary school kids. The reason why kids would feel very sluggish after lunch wasn't because they had gym, is that there was an elevated CO2 in the classroom, and being that the kids are shorter, there's less oxygen. So there's studies on all this material showing that, having masks is very detrimental for the kids getting oxygen. The best way to get oxygen to the brain is water. So kids need to drink water, and obviously if they can't breathe, they're not breathing in the oxygen that way.
On June 30th, as I understand right now, all of the governor's executive orders will be lifted except 12. The legislature will push them through. Is it your understanding that on June 30th, the mandate, the executive order 175, the one you're asking to be lifted, will be lifted?
I heard that executive order 175 is going through until December 30th. So I believe he has the masks until December 30th.
For schools.
For schools, yep. For everybody else won't have to do it, but schools will have to have it until December 30th.
Okay.
As of now.
I hope you at least get an answer to your letter, sir. I think at least you were on the side of the parents that don't want to wear the mask and the side of the kids that don't want to wear the mask. And I find it interesting that you say if you want to, you can just go ahead and wear it. So we'll see what happens in September.
Yep, absolutely. So
thanks for your time. Trianapolis Parlapanides, Superintendent of Schools for the Central Regional District in Ocean County. Next on Jersey Matters.
Surf's Up at the Jersey Shore will tell you what you can expect for the upcoming summer season. Coming up next on Jersey Matters.
Well, you guys certainly don't need me to tell you this, but we are in a rotten pattern for Memorial Day weekend. It feels like April out there. We got clouds, we got periodic showers. But I guess the good news is you'll still be able to kind of recover from this. You'll squeeze in your backyard barbecues and the pool parties and whatnot. Might be a little bit chilly, but by Monday, we're looking at partly sunny skies, warmer temperatures in the 70s at least, so more near normal. And then we're just going to continue to go. The week ahead is looking much warmer. Our outlook into the end of the week will probably see temperatures getting back into the 80s. Once the storm we're dealing with over the weekend departs, you have some small shower chances, but nothing substantial. We will have picked up between the thunderstorms on Friday night or Thursday night rather, and the storm that we've been dealing with, probably near 3 inches of rain for some of us. So we don't need any more after this, that's for sure. Your 7-day outlook is going to show you those warmer temperatures getting back into the 80s Thursday, Friday, Saturday. For Jersey Matters, I'm meteorologist Nori Strick.
Welcome back. I'm Larry Menti, and rejoice. It is finally summer season at the Jersey Shore. Waited for this for a long time, haven't we? Even though our Kimberly Kravitz says not everything's going to look the same this season. Kimberly.
Hi, it's great to be back here at the Jersey Shore, and we've just attended the annual Kickoff to Summer event, where officials tell us that they have one goal in mind, and that's to get back to a normal summer here at the Jersey Shore.
Hey, we're moving forward. All right, this is a forward season. And, I could talk about the numbers. I could talk about the challenges last year, and there were. Okay, we overcame them. Let's move forward to this year, 2021.
But with all things considered, a normal summer may not exist. Moving forward full capacity at the Jersey Shore with minimal laborers was one topic of conversation, a struggle that many restaurant owners are dealing with right now.
It's insane. I mean, to go through Sandy, to go through the pandemic was tough, but going through this is even harder. It's like 11,000, almost 11,000 in Ocean County. That are available jobs on Indeed.
And Leon says there's an additional 40,000 jobs up on Indeed in Monmouth County.
Yeah, people are on vacation. They want to be on the beach and not waiting online for sandwiches and not waiting online and having 2-hour waits in restaurants and then waiting 45 minutes at their table to get their dinner. It's hard. I mean, what are you going to do?
Well, this has always been a tough time of year. We compete with the nice outside jobs like lifeguarding or jobs like landscaping and stuff like that. But people are making big money. All the restaurants are desperate, so they're offering people more and more money. I mean,
Lifeguards, on the other hand, we will see no shortage of this summer season.
I think in speaking with some of the mayors and in particular the police chiefs, a lot of the guards have come back. You know, last year we were dealing with limited capacity with our beaches and our beach badges. This year it looks like it's going to be full on, and we're prepared.
A Jersey Shore summer at full capacity means parking will be a drag, but Asbury Park has a plan to get around more easily with a new e-scooter program launched by Link.
I would definitely use them. 4th of July, for example, takes like 30 minutes. If you're right here, it takes 40 minutes just to get up here. Like, you can just hop on one of those things and get there in like 5 minutes. And free parking.
But if you plan to spend a week down the Jersey Shore this summer, you'll be in for a rude awakening.
Lack of inventory, biggest problem. A lot of people have been looking since February and booking homes for rent for the summer. Not just the summer, but they've been actually renting down here in the Jersey Shore all year.
The trend is that Jersey Shore rental properties booked as fast as COVID-19 restrictions eased.
People used to have a lot of different options with flying, and so now people are still scared to fly. So they're going to look for somewhere where they can drive. And again, they've been cooped up in the house.
So the best advice when planning a week down the shore.
Well, you want to go with what we call off-season, or off-peak, time. So during the week, maybe try and do a Tuesday through Thursday, or Monday through Friday, something like that. The weekends are tough. But most of the rentals are weekly rentals, which are your Saturday to Saturday, what they call the turnover. A lot of those, they're already booked.
So although there will be some factors to get used to while down the shore this summer, Sheriff Golden's mantra is safety first.
We want a safe summer season. That's our goal here in Monmouth County.
While you're down the shore this Memorial Day weekend, you can even get your shots. There'll be vaccines available at your Asbury Park Boardwalk, Pier Village, and Sandy Hook. Reporting from Avon by the Sea for Jersey Matters, I'm Kimberly Kravitz.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. And as you enjoy this Memorial Day weekend, please just take a couple of moments to remember those who fought and died so we could be free. My commentary is next. The origin of the COVID-19 virus that has killed nearly 3.5 million people worldwide is still a mystery. We do know it started in Wuhan, China, but the Chinese government refused outside help in containing the virus, and it quickly spread around the world. And we do know that the Wuhan Institute of Virology has been the target of suspicion because they do work with the SARS virus and other mutations of the coronavirus, so it would make sense that COVID-19 escaped from their lab. Something former President Donald Trump believed was true.
Have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have.
That moment was important because instantly and overwhelmingly the media blasted the Wuhan lab theory as ridiculous. Republican Senator Tom Cotton was actually the first to make the accusation against the Wuhan lab, and the New York Times said it was a fringe theory. Forbes said definitively, without any evidence, that the virus did not come from a Wuhan lab. These are just 4 of a long list of media reports that claimed the theory was rubbish. It is now much more likely that those news reports are rubbish and need to either be retracted or corrected. Because the Wall Street Journal just broke the story that 3 researchers at the Wuhan lab came down with COVID-19 symptoms all the way back in November of 2019 and had to be treated at the hospital. The new information, which was discovered by U.S. intelligence, even has Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has been saying all along that the virus most likely started naturally, to change his mind.
No, I'm not convinced about that. I think that we should continue to investigate what went on in China until we find out, to the best of our ability, exactly what happened.
I'll tell you what, Dr. Fauci flips more than a fish in a dock. Fauci had his change of heart during an interview with PolitiFact's managing editor, Katie Sanders, during an online event titled PolitiFact's Festival of Fact-Checking. The think tank, the Poynter Institute, is the one that runs PolitiFact. And this latest interview was kind of an embarrassment to both Poynter and PolitiFact because it had investigated the claim about the Wuhan lab back in September of 2020. And they gave it a rating of pants on fire, which is their way of saying the claim is a lie. Now, to PolitiFact's credit, based on the Fauci interview, they have removed the fact check from their database, and they say they're going to review it. But how did they get it so wrong? Yes, there was a World Health Organization investigation of the Wuhan labs that cleared the labs, but the investigation was widely criticized as being flawed and biased, even by the scientists who conducted the investigation, because they were spoon-fed information by the Chinese government and they were never allowed full access. The truth is, we still don't know if it really started in the lab, but it certainly is feasible, even likely. And there certainly aren't enough facts for the fact checkers to call it a pants-on-fire lie. So why were so many in the media, not just PolitiFact, so quick to claim it was a lie? Well, the Washington Post, that also does a fact check, blamed it on Donald Trump. In a long article titled "How the Wuhan Lab Leak Stories Suddenly Became Credible," the Washington Post blamed Donald Trump for its bad reporting, writing, "The Trump administration's messaging was often accompanied by anti-Chinese rhetoric, making it easier for skeptics to ignore its claims." Except that the Washington Post didn't ignore the claims. The Post and many other media outlets reported that the claims were part of a potentially dangerous conspiracy theory. And the theory isn't suddenly credible, as the Post claims. The Post just didn't want to believe it because Trump said it. This is what happens when you allow politics and not facts be your guide in reporting, especially in an exercise called fact-checking. I know this is really embarrassing for the media, but you can't ignore the smoke. Those pants on fire are your own. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.